So objections versus conditions, that's something very important to be aware of when prospecting. And I feel like some agents maybe obsess too much on objection handling and not really recognizing that's just a condition.
So today we are going to talk to, and we're live actually. So today we're going to talk to AJ Mida. Did I say that right, AJ?
AJ Mida.
Mida. Yeah, I knew I was saying something wrong there. Okay, so welcome AJ. Welcome Robert from RedX. Everybody, please tell us where you're from. I want to know where city and state you're from. We would love to get to know who we're talking to right now. We've got 49 of you here, so please come on, let's roll it out. We've got someone from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way Vegas. Wow. We've got Concord, Miami, DeLuca. We've got Pittsburgh. So this is awesome. I'm so excited. Los Angeles. Yep, right here, California. So where are my Cali peeps? Anyone over here? Come on, let's go. Chicago, DC, Jersey. Awesome, awesome. So welcome everybody. I want to make this such a grand introduction because I have heard AJ talk before in the past, and I am so excited to learn from you, AJ. So let me give you guys a little bit of information about who our guest speaker is today. AJ has built his eXp Realty organization of over 1,500 agents. Wow. Traveled across the country in a motorhome and now resides in Puerto Rico. Oh my gosh, AJ, you're all the way in Puerto Rico?
Yep.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. With his wife, Abby Mida, and their son-to-be, baby boy. Congratulations. Living that island life. Wow. And enjoying the tax savings and the great culture, of course, and the food and the island that the island provides. This is so amazing. I love it. Okay, so AJ, today we're going to focus on growing and coaching how you do it with your team, right? And building your personal brand online. You're going to share that with us. But you're also going to be talking more about which lead types are most effective in today's marketplace, objections versus conditions, and how to overcome them, and strategies to working with buyers during the low inventory markets that we're all facing. Welcome, AJ. And of course, Robert with RedX.
Always happy to be here.
AJ, let's start this this webinar. Tell us a little bit about, how to work with our clients, how to work with handling these kind of objections with RedX.
Yeah, definitely awesome. Well, I appreciate being on here and the introduction. Full disclosure, I did not write that bio. So don't hold any of that against me, but my wife and I do live in Puerto Rico now, and we spend about half the year here and about another half of the year back in the States between Michigan, and looks like this summer we'll be in Montana, in Bozeman. So super exciting, and our team is approaching 4,000 agents now, so it's really exciting. But yeah, I mean, we could just dive right into the content.
Did you just say 4,000 agents?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is really good. Congratulations to that. But yes, let's dive right into it because I know all of us are very eager to learn from you today.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. So yeah, I kind of got started in real estate back in end of 2012, and the market was definitely a lot different than it is now. However, what I discovered as an agent through being in different coaching programs and always just being a student of the industry is that the habits you build, regardless of the market, are the habits that are going to get you through any market. And, being partnered with a company like RedX, where you're getting valuable data, you have access to a power dialer, and you're building habits based around prospecting, that's what builds a strong foundation for agents. I learned this when I was at Keller Williams at the beginning of my career. Was Gary Keller always talks about having your business being prospecting based and marketing enhanced.
Yep.
And I still believe that to this day. And I think the good habits that you build in any market, you just need to double down on them now. So prior to the call, we were talking about reverse circle prospecting. Robert brought that up, and if you're good with it, we'll just start there.
Yes,
I call it my hot buyer script.
Yes,
cool.
Oh, I would love to know how you do this reverse prospecting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, and I had massive success with this even when the market wasn't as crazy. But I think in this market, you can actually have more success with it. So the concept is you have a buyer, they can't find what they're looking for, or in this market, they can find what they're looking for. They just lose on a multiple offer situation. So what you do is you take that buyer, and this is a value add for the sellers who don't yet have an agent, and it's a value add for your clients. So when you're meeting with buyers, you can actually use this in a buyer presentation as one of the reasons why someone should work with you exclusively over another buyer's agent. So the concept is you have a buyer, they're looking in, let's just say, price range $250,000 to $350,000. So the idea is in your market, you get a list. You can use RedX for circle prospecting. So that's what I'd recommend doing. And you get your list for every neighborhood that would fit that price criteria. So you just kind of cast a wide net. You don't get too specific right now, but you get all that data downloaded and uploaded to the Power Dialer. And then you just have a simple script, print it out, have it in front of you, and you say something like this. So if I'm calling houses, a lot of times it may not be the right name, or maybe their name is Jonathan, but they go by John. So I never really would use the name at this point. I would just go right into my script. So I'd say something like, they'd answer. I'd say, hi, this is AJ. I'm a local real estate agent, and I'm actually calling because I have a buyer looking to potentially purchase in your neighborhood. By any chance, do you know anyone looking to sell their home? And typically at this point, they're going to say no. You caught them off guard. They're just ready to get off the phone. And this is where the magic happens. You then go into, by any chance, when do you plan on moving? Or by any chance, do you plan on selling? Or when do you plan on moving? You can use a variation there. And what that does is immediately it puts them in a seller's shoes. Like they start thinking, when am I selling? But more importantly, they start to look at you as a person who has a ready, willing, and able buyer. So they don't necessarily maybe have to put on the MLS, deal with 100 showings, people going through their house all week long, holding an open house, all the headaches that can come for a seller with selling their house. And potentially they might be looking at it like, wow, maybe I can save some commission here because I'm working with one agent versus two. So if they are considering at selling in the next 6-12 months, they're going to raise their hand and let you know. And at that point, you set up a preview appointment. So if they say, well, you know what, we're thinking about selling next month, we're thinking about selling in the fall, whatever it might be, awesome. Well, what I'd love to do is set up a time where I could stop by the home, we can meet each other, and I'll just do a quick preview appointment for my buyer and see if it's something that might match their criteria. And that's it. So you're showing up, you're building rapport when you're there. If it's a good match for your buyer, great. Maybe you can match up that buyer with that seller, get the deal done. But if not, maybe it's not a good fit. What you did is you established a new relationship with a seller in your local market. You brought a pack of information to drop off. You showed up in your business attire with a smile, and they got to meet a great agent. And that's a relationship that can turn into something in the future. It helps your buyers out and helps you get more listings. Because right now in this market, listings is the name of the game. I was just having a call with an agent this morning, and I said, yeah, right. They're kind of, complaining a little bit about how it's tough to be a buyer's agent right now. Yeah. And I agree, it is very tough. And I was like, yeah, right now is a great time to be a listing agent. And they said, yeah, if you can find listings, it is your duty right now as a real estate agent to create the inventory.
Exactly.
So,
and that's why we say that if you are a listing agent, you own the market, so to speak, right? You've got to create the inventory. And this is a great tip that you gave us, create and build the inventory. Everyone complains about the fact that we're in a shortage of homes, where we don't have enough homes. Therefore, we're just going to sit around and not really prospect in order to help our buyer get that home that they're looking for. So I love the fact that you said circle prospect in that area. Are you referring to geo farming as well through RedX? That would be something geo, right? Okay, got it. Tell us a little bit more about objection handling. That in fact, okay, so there's a script that you just gave us. So this is awesome. Give us one of the scripts that you might share, might be able to share with us when it comes to objection handling, right?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of leading into that, real quick, one thing to think about with creating the inventory is a big part of what we're doing right now is you just got to share the good news. Believe it or not, there's some people that don't really watch the news that much. They don't talk to a lot of people, and they're just sitting at home doing their thing, and they don't even know what the market's doing. So when you call up and circle prospect, another great source is going back and calling old expireds that expired maybe even 5 years ago. Like, you can get all this data from RedX. So it's like going back years to get old expireds, and just sharing the good news. And they either don't know the markets where it's at, or if they do know the market's doing well and they do want to sell, you're the first agent that reaches out because nobody else is reaching out, and you have potential to be their agent. So objections versus conditions, that's something very important to be aware of when prospecting. And I feel like some agents maybe obsess too much on objection handling and not really recognizing that's just a condition. So the difference being, a condition might be, let's just say school's back in session in the fall, and who knows with COVID, what's going on in your state? We don't know. Maybe school's not back in session for a very long time. The parents are going crazy, like, no, put them back in school. But say they're going back to school, like, and you call them and they're like, hey, really appreciate you calling. Yeah, I know my home expired. I know it was a for sale by owner, whatever the situation is, but we're not selling right now because our kids just got back in school. And right now it's just not a good time. We were just testing the market. You'll hear that a lot. We were just testing the market. We were just hoping we could sell over the summer, but now that's back in school, we're just going to stay put. Like, that's a real deal. Like, you got 3 kids in school, all younger than 10, like, they're not trying to do a massive move during the school year. And when they say they're testing the market, like, this is a condition. This is a condition of a reason why they're not going to sell. An objection might be, I already met with 2 agents and I'm all set. That's something you can handle. Or, we had it listed, but we just don't think we can get what we want for it. Those you can start to handle because those are things that you can overcome. So you got to be clear on what those are. And, some coaches, trainers might give different advice, but I'm the type of person that's not going to beat someone up too much on objections. Like, I'm very much in the realm of, yes, handle the objections, and, every no gets you closer to a yes. Like, I used to put 5 pennies on my table and move them over. Like, if I'd ask for the appointment for 5 times and then I move the penny over, and then I could get off the call. So I was very persistent in my calls, but at the same time, I didn't get too crazy about handling objections. It was more about having a conversation, because oftentimes it just makes more sense to build that relationship on the phone, nurture that lead, and get onto your next call. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're building a funnel. And the more sellers you get to that top of the funnel and build a relationship, I call that your nurture farm, the more closings you have dripping out at the bottom. And if you're just hanging on to that one lead, trying to handle all their objections, maybe getting a little too confrontational on the phone where it kind of burns that relationship, it can kind of turn sour. So you use the penny game, ask for the appointment multiple times, and try to start to understand, as you're getting objections, is this an objection or a condition? Write them down, get a role play partner, form mini mastermind groups, and start to learn, where are you getting stuck? And is it an objection I should be handling, or is it really a condition that I should just, once I receive it, kind of pivot from it and ask the next question?
AJ, I love that breaking up between objections and conditions. Do you have a decision tree on when you move them into your nurture, or people that you choose not to move into your follow-up, or when do you decide to add people to your sphere? Like, how does that go at the end of that script and phone call, or how do you make that decision?
Yeah, great question. And this is very important. This is, I think, where agents either succeed with prospecting or fail, is at this key moment. It's like, it's clear you're not getting the appointment. What do you do? And you don't want to be a professional conversationalist. So you don't always just want to move them into your sphere. Like, if you're not asking for the appointment, you're just becoming a professional conversationalist, and you're never going to get any listings. But when it's very clear, after you moved at least a couple pennies over, maybe you got all 5 pennies over across your desk, and it's clear you're not getting the appointment, maybe it's a condition, maybe the objections were just past your skill level, which is okay. You don't have to be an expert right now. You just got to start. And when you get to the point where it's like, all right, I'm not getting the appointment. So I'd say, I'd say, hey, Robert, I appreciate your time so much today. It sounds like, maybe it makes sense that you're going to sell later this summer. And I got to hop on another call anyways. What I'd love to do is just stay in touch. Would it be okay if I sent you some information? And then they'd say, yeah, because they're just trying to get off the phone at this point. And they think you're just going to mail them something maybe. So I followed up with, once they say yes, I say, great, what's the best email for you? So now you capture an additional point of contact info that you can stay in touch. But you also say something maybe before or after that, however you want to do it, but you just say, hey, Robert, when the time comes for you to sell your house, do you have an agent you're obligated to, or would you be open to interviewing me for the job of selling your home?
I love that. Oh my goodness, that's such an aha. That is so awesome. Can you repeat that again for everyone?
Yeah. Hey, Robert, when the time comes to sell your house, do you have an agent that you're obligated to, or would you be open to interviewing me when it comes to selling your home?
Awesome.
Wow.
What I learned is I had this huge nurture farm and people were just being nice to me. So I'd call them a month later, 3 months later, and I'd say, hey, it's AJ. I was just calling to see if you're ready to list your house now. And they're like, well, actually, our neighbor's listing it. Actually, our son's listing it, our mother-in-law, like whatever it might be. They had a tight relationship that they were never going to sever from, even if it was an expired or whatever. They're just being nice to you. And I would see in my notes, in my dialer, like I called this person 10 times and now they're finally telling me that they're listing it with their brother. Like that was licensed 5 years ago. They didn't just get their license.
Yeah.
So I wasted a lot of time and energy. So what I find is you ask that question, if they have someone that they're tight with, let them list with them, move on. But if they don't, which most don't, and you do a good job, reaching out to them, you can text, you can call, you can email, you can send them direct mail. You do that over the next 6 months, year, 2 years. Eventually, you should get 3 to 5 of these people every single day. That's at least, let's call it 20 a week, 80 a month, 1,000 a year. Like that's 1,000 potential sellers that all said, we don't have an agent and yes, we'll interview you. After a year or two of doing this, it becomes, you can ultimately just prospect more market, and all these notes are in your power dialer. A power dialer is essential. If you're prospecting and you don't have it, you're not even in the game yet. Like that's the number one tool for an agent who prospects is a power dialer. So that's gold. Like that's the whole system right there. Like if you just do that, you will win. You just got to do it 2 or 3 hours a day.
And there's so many golden nuggets, you guys, that we just got from AJ here. For an exclusive offer from RedX, here's my pitch. For LCA members only, sign up now and they will waive the entire setup fee. Thank you, Robert. That's $150 savings, you guys. So we do have the link right there. Tessa has just put that up there for you guys. So, and again, if you do need to move, if you do need to go anywhere, you have an appointment or anything, this webinar is recorded and will be up on our YouTube channel, LCA, LabCoatAgents. So let's talk a little bit more about strategies, AJ. I mean, these are awesome strategies. I know there was a question from Anthony. Let's go ahead and answer that one. He said, I'd love to hear how that 2-year plus old script sounds, expired script.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same expired script that you'd always used. And just a side note on scripts, like pretty much all the scripts out there work. Like unless someone just made it that doesn't know anything about real estate, maybe that one doesn't work. But if it's a script from a coach that you've heard about in the past, it probably works. You just, what really matters is that you get good at the script. So don't be thinking, what script should I use? Like, does that one work? This one doesn't. Just get good at a script. But the intro.
Right, and make it more conversationalist, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that comes from knowing your script, because if you don't know a script, you can't be conversational. You can't be a good conversationalist because you're thinking, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? And you can't listen. But just change the intro. So rather than just going into the normal expired script that you have, I would just start out with, hey, and again, I don't use names because names with tax records, like who knows, maybe they're selling it for their parent, like names can be tricky. So I would always typically lead in with something like this. So I'd say, hi, my name's AJ. My name's AJ Mida. I'm a local real estate agent. And then, so that would be my intro typically. Mm-hmm. So hi, my name's AJ. I'm a local real estate agent. And I kind of make it friendly and fun. So hi, my name's AJ. I'm a local real estate agent. I'm calling because I actually saw that your home came off the market 2 years ago. And I just wanted to find out if it had sold or if it was still available. That's it. And these calls are so easy. And if you're new to expireds, new to prospecting, this is a great place to start because they're not really getting any other calls. Like you're probably the only one, whereas a new expired might get 20, 30 calls the first day. And that can be intimidating. Eventually you want to build up to where you're also calling those. But if you're just starting with old expireds with that script, you have to call more to get a listing. You know, you got to know your numbers because, you know, you're just calling them out of the blue. But these are amazing leads, and you build your nurture farm. And just by sheer numbers, when you're calling 2, 3, 4 hours a day consistently, you will call people that say, actually, my husband and I were just thinking about it, and they don't have an agent. And then you're showing up later in the week, and then you're listing it and it's sold in 30 days. That will happen. It's happened to me countless times. And it's not because I was lucky, it's because I showed up every day for 3 hours making my calls.
Absolutely. I think these are, like I said, you know, these are great tips. Scripts are so conversation based. I mean, you just have to really embed them, right? I mean, embed your commands. Tonality matters. What you say, how you say, when you say matters, right? These are amazing scripts that you shared with us. Another question is, how do you balance prospecting time and follow up on your weekly basis? From Amanda.
Yeah. So in terms of balancing it, my typical day, I started role playing at 7:45 a.m. for 15 minutes. That was the warm up for the game. The game started at 8 a.m. At 8 a.m., I had to be pressing start on the power dialer. And then I would go for 50 minutes, 5-0. So I'd go 50 minutes of nonstop prospecting. I mean, I'm like Robert standing up. I would never be sitting down. I'd have my headset on. I'd have a mirror up. My scripts are on the wall. My phone is somewhere where I can't reach it. So I'm not checking text, you know, emails. I'm not answering inbound calls. So it's very intentional, very focused, 50 minutes. And then 10 minutes, I grab some water, maybe watch a motivational YouTube video, something like that. And then I do that for 3 hours. And in the last hour, I'll mix in my lead follow-up. So you'll have a general sense of how many calls you have that day, because you'll have your call list, or you'll have your buckets, depending on how you have it set up. But really, follow-up shouldn't take any more than a half hour a day. So I would do like first hour expireds, second hour, if you got a lot of FSBOs in your area, go to FSBO second hour. Third hour could be it could be old expireds half hour, last half hour could be lead follow-up. So I think if you're doing 2.5 hours prospecting, half hour follow-up, you're golden. If you're a new agent watching this, you have nothing else to do, there's no reason you should be prospecting 4 to 6 hours a day. Full disclaimer, but once you're kind of in a running pace where you're selling houses, you're showing buyers, you're listing property, non-negotiable 2 to 3 hours a day should be your goal.
You know, Jim McCord says, I found working older expireds is far more productive than yesterday's expireds, which is so true, Jim. Jose asked, AJ, do you mind sharing your scripts? Now, I think he shared a couple of scripts. Jose, if you can be a little particular on what exactly you're looking for, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, because I saw, it looks like Holly asked for the scripts too. I have a YouTube channel. If you guys just search my name and just check one of my recent videos in the description, I have a prospecting course that has all my scripts in there that you can download for free. I don't sell anything. So that's just there for free for people to use.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that, AJ. So let's continue to kind of like, you know, add some more value to these wonderful agents here. What else can you share with us? I know which lead types are most effective in today's market, would you say? I know we talked about the 5-year-old expireds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, the older expireds. What other lead sources do you think are more effective?
Yeah. So, you know, the ones we definitely talked about, you know, the circle prospecting, old expireds, just like Jim said. What's up, Jim? Good to see you, my friend. Old expireds is great. Love old expireds. Like if right now, I mean, we're in a hot market. Like if it's expiring right in today's market, like who knows why it's expiring? I mean, you might not even want to be calling that person.
Right.
Just kidding. Still call them. But old expireds are gold right now. And for me, when I was new, I was in Charlotte. So I would call into the rural area. So I would drive an hour from my house to list a property. Now I pre-qualified. It's a seller pre-qualification script to make sure that they're willing, they're motivated, they're reasonable. Like there's questions you ask, but I would drive an hour to list property. And in most areas, if you drive an hour in one direction, unless you're in California, like you're probably getting into a more rural area. You know, there's farmland, you know, the houses are more spaced out, you know, maybe it's a little lower price point than average for what you're used to. Nobody's working those areas. Like if you just call into those areas, call those old expireds, like, and if you're new, like the competition out there, like you can just show up and list property. Like, I think that's just a gold mine there. Robert, do you guys do absentee owners? That's one thing I don't know.
You can filter for them.
Okay, so
once you've loaded your leads, then you can filter for them in Vortex.
Cool. So absentee owners, like guys, I never did this full disclaimer. There wasn't a need to. Expireds, old expireds, and FSBOs, and a little bit of circle prospecting is all I needed. But in this market, absentee owners would be like really good, because the challenge right now with sellers, and you guys know this, is some sellers don't want to sell because they're afraid they can't find a house to buy because it's so competitive. If it's an absentee owner, they have a house to sell and they don't need to buy another house. So like absentee owners, I think right now would really crush. So I would probably really be experimenting with that. I would use a version of like the old expired script, and maybe RedX has some absentee owner scripts on their website. Great resource. But I think absentee owners would be an area that I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, I was just going to say, AJ, I really like you started this way and then kind of said it the same right now, but don't abandon your business plan, right? Like things that are working, it is low inventory right now. You might need to tweak some things, but don't abandon your business plan. You've had success with these lead types. And so I just, totally resonates with me that low inventory is a condition, like you said, but what's brought you success, you need to double down on that for sure.
Yeah. And again, we are the ones who can build the market, right? I mean, the ones that are actually the realtors that have the listings are the ones that control it. And how are they doing it? Let's reverse play that a little bit. Every morning, whether it's AJ or myself, we do wake up and we do prospect, we do our affirmations. We have to start from here, the positive mindset, and then take it out. And actually intentionally focus on lead generation, lead follow-up, and prospecting. And one thing that I remember from my Keller Williams days is Gary Keller always used to say, your job as a realtor is lead generation, lead follow-up, closing deals, going on appointments, writing offers, and that's it. Everything else can be managed out. So what is it that you're doing in regards to lead generation and lead follow-up? That's good key takeaways from today's webinar. Thank you, AJ. Robert, I wanted to ask you something about absentee owners that AJ had mentioned. Like you said, we just go in and filter those out. Can you repeat that again really quickly? What that?
Yeah. So once you've loaded your leads, so depending on what lead stack you're working, let's say you're loading expireds for the day, your FSBOs, and especially when you're doing your geo leads, circle prospecting. Once you have them loaded, then in Vortex, so it has the dialer, everything in there, all your notes. But on the left-hand side, there's filters, and there's all sorts of things you can filter for. So depending on what kind of properties you like to work, income levels you like to work at, all those things, of course. But one of the things you can filter is for absentee owners.
That's awesome. That's such good information, you guys. And obviously there is a special offer from RedX exclusively for LCA members. Please do sign up. Your entire setup fee will be waived today. Obviously that's $150 savings. The link is right there in our chat box.
And I wanted to add, again, just based off of what AJ's telling us and teaching us, and he has 4,000 agents, right? And he looks at all of us that maybe we've been on the phone all week and we're like, I'm tired of cold calling. And he's like, prospecting is where it's at. You've got to dedicate your time to that. And he said he started his day with role play, and not everyone knows this, even like loyal customers of RedX, but we have a free role play system. If you are a customer of RedX, you can call our customer support line, and they have a role play system that you can start your day off. So if you don't have a partner, if you're not in a brokerage that has other people to connect with on that, or you don't know who's awake at 7:45 a.m. to role play with you, start your day with RedX, because that's part of our customer support of just making you successful.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That's a great resource.
That's something I didn't even know. So that is a big aha for me, because of course I have a team also that does this, and we are part of RedX as well. And to know that there's a role play system, wow, That's awesome. What else do we want to ask AJ? So Robert, actually not for AJ, but Amanda, I think we already answered this, but let me just ask this question. Could we filter for absentee owners through our expired and FSBO leads?
Yeah, so that's a filter that exists. Obviously with all the records that we have to be able to hit that data point. But yes, it's just a filter you can apply to all lead types.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so my question, AJ, to you is, once you see that there's X amount of leads that you want to call, and you just keep dialing and you keep dialing, every no is closer to a yes. My coach Sean says that all the time to me. So every no is closer to a yes. What other tips in regards to not only mindset, but when you get to that level where you had no progress that day, do you change your lead source the next day, or do you continue just focusing on expireds, old expireds, or do you focus on FSBOs the next day? Do you do a variety throughout the week? How does that week look like for you?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. For me, it's like my first year in real estate, I only sold 6 houses. And the reason was because I was trying so many different things. I was trying something for a week or two. It wasn't working, whether it be open houses, whether it be FSBOs, whether it be expireds, whether it be, online lead generation for buyers. Like I was trying all these different things, and I never got enough momentum in one area to really have success. And then I hired a coach 6 months into my career. This was 2013. And by the end of my first year, thanks to prospecting, I had over 20 active listings and sold 36 houses my second year by myself. And that was from calling expireds and old expireds like 80% of the time, and calling FSBOs like 20% of the time, maybe 15% of the time, and 5% circle prospecting. So I did a little bit of that too. And that's it. Like you have to go deep on something. Like everything I just mentioned works. It's just, you got to go really deep with it. And with seller prospecting, it's the best thing to go deep with because it's more leverage, meaning it takes less time to close a seller than does a buyer, especially in this market. And you get to control your schedule more. So you don't really have to necessarily work Saturdays and Sundays, whereas buyers, they have to see houses Saturdays, Sundays, evenings. A new house comes on the market. You're going to be at 7 o'clock at night, like showing a house if it's a new listing and your clients just got out of work. So you get more freedom through working sellers too. So I would just go, if you're like, I want to make as much money in real estate as possible in the least amount of time and effort, and have most freedom in my business possible, and spend the least amount of money, then it's seller lead generation. And you just got to choose to go really deep with expireds, old expireds, FSBOs. If you got a great sphere, load them up into Vortex and organize them and make them part of your lead follow-up. So don't neglect them by any means. But yeah, you just got to go really deep. So my workflow in the morning was new expireds. So 8 a.m., new expireds. I would call the new expireds once, and then immediately after I'd call them a second time. What I found is when they see a number twice on their phone, they're like, well, who keeps calling me? So then they answer. So my pickup rate would go up on new expireds. After that, I would call yesterday's expireds. After that, I would call expireds from 2 days ago. And I would go all the way back 5 days. And I just set up buckets for this. You can set up like callbacks or however you want to arrange it. But I would call everybody twice the first day, and then another 5 days. So everyone was getting 6, 7 calls. And that was my workflow. And then once that person got, calls on that 5th day, then I would move them to like my main bucket. I called it the bag, because I just wanted to throw them in the bag. That was my saying that I had for myself. And then my bag was ultimately my archived list. So when I didn't have new expireds, or I just needed to do more prospecting on Saturday because I was behind on my goals, I just went to the bag and I had all of my old expireds just sitting there that I had been paying for the last months, eventually years. And I was able to call into that. So that was my process for expireds. That would usually take half hour to an hour, depending on the day. And then I would go into old expireds, then into FSBOs, then into follow-up. And when I had a good active buyer, I would do my hot buyer script. And right now, because of the market, you may just want to make that part of your plan where, 20 minutes every day, you're doing a hot buyer script at the end of your prospecting. And that's it. To Robert's point, don't abandon your business plan. I love that. It's like, oh my gosh, this market's crazy. Like, I got to do something different. It's like, no, you just got to double down. You got to come to your business plan with more focus, more intensity, more purpose. You know, put your phone in the other room. Stop checking Facebook when you're prospecting. You know, just get your headset, have your dialer on your screen, stand up. Get excited. You know, get motivated. If you're having a bad morning, change it real quick. Put a smile on your face and have some energy coming to these calls. Your energy and how you say things matters more than what you say.
Exactly. It's how you say, who you say, and how many times you say it to, right? I know Janice has a question here. How often did you leave a message?
So messages are interesting. If you have the ability to drop a message, a pre-recorded voicemail, I would do that. I wouldn't waste time you yourself leaving a voicemail. Your time's better spent just calling the next person. But if you can click a button, drop a message, I would do that. So people just don't call back. But I like dropping a message if it doesn't take any extra time, because then they're like, oh, AJ called me this week. AJ called me again. AJ called me again. And they start to think, wow, AJ is actually out there working. He's not the average agent just sitting back and collecting commission.
Right.
So that's how I'd approach messages.
And sometimes people view realtors as used car salespeople, or even that. And it is sad, obviously, but we as a realtor community need to change that mindset, right? And this is where it starts. This is how it starts. And just staying focused and building that relationship, nurturing that relationship, correct? And that's when you put them in your different buckets. And then, of course, your bag, your archived bag. I wrote it down. I took notes. and that's when you go back to it and say, okay, now I need to start digging a little deeper. They're like, oh yeah, this is the guy who called me several months ago, right? They remember. So that is really good ahas. So a couple of other things, other questions coming up. Holly says, if someone hangs up on you and is rude, do you still call them back later?
Yeah, it depends how rude. It's kind of like this. It's like there's unlimited amount of business out there. You don't need to waste your time trying to work with people who like just cussed you out. So like if they were really rude, I would mark them as like a DNC and just not call them back. Do not call like ever again. But if they're kind of rude, just having a bad morning, like, hey, stop calling me, and hung up, I would just throw them in the bag. So I would still have that data to call them again in the future. I don't want to call them tomorrow because then you'd be like, I just hung up on you tomorrow. They're still gonna be mad. But a week from now, 2 weeks from now, they're probably not gonna remember you. And if they do, they're in a different place. But if they're like, profanity at me, I'm just not gonna call them ever again. You don't need that in your life. I don't need that in my life. Let's just move on. And we want to work with good people who are looking to work with us.
And then you wonder why it was expired if it was, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, it's not always the realtor's fault here why a property is expired. Think about that one. Another question from Janice asks, do you do social media as well?
Yeah, so social media is an interesting thing. I started the call with talking about how your business should be prospecting based, marketing enhanced. Right. I assume you're talking about like posting on social media versus direct messaging. I guess direct messaging people could be prospecting, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. So let's just talk about like posting on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. For sure, do it. But just know that it's marketing enhanced. What has to happen in your business is prospecting 2, 3, 4 hours a day. That has to happen. Social media does not have to happen. Prospecting is the engine that's going to take your business where it needs to go. Social media is just going to enhance everything. So social media strategy, to keep it real simple, I would just try to post on Facebook at least once a day, copy and paste that picture and that message over to Instagram and be done with it, and interact with the people that are commenting, and do this in your spare time. What can you post? Post that you're out showing homes, post that you just visited an open house, post that you just finished, finding sellers for your buyers, do a little selfie at your prospecting station. Just really document your journey. It's not about as much like what should I be posting, just be thinking, how can I document what I'm actually doing in my business and my personal life? Because you'll probably get more business by posting your personal stuff, because people start to know and like you. And, I meet people and they're like, I've been following your Facebook for 2 years and I've never met them. We've never had a conversation, but they're like, I really liked when you said this. And it's like, wow, like I don't even remember posting that, but they related to something. So just be real on social media, post a good mix of business and personal, do it once a day. And And if someone comments and you want to like time block, everything should be time blocked. Like social media should be time blocked into your day. So maybe you finish prospecting, then you do your post, and that's in your calendar written down. And maybe you have a half hour later in the day where you come back and you direct message, just when you're prospecting, direct message the people who commented, who liked. You know, if Robert liked my post of me prospecting in my little station, I'd be like, maybe he commented, man, that looks like fun. I would message him privately, be like, yeah, it is fun. You know, my business is based on referrals. If you ever know anyone, let me know. Haha. Like, you know, like just have fun with it.
Right. And, you know, like you just said, it has to be relatable, whether it's personal or business, it has to be relatable. When you relate to people, they will obviously comment on it. Don't be so fake on social media to not actually being who you truly are. I find that very important to know. Another question Amanda asked is, do you send texts or try to reach out to leads in your target area versus via social media after your call session ends with them?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You know, I was able to retire from selling houses 3 years ago, so it was a little different back then. Maybe texting felt a little more intrusive than it does today. But I failed forward. Like my first year, all I did was call. I didn't text, I didn't email, I didn't send them nothing in the mail. And calling got me to 20 active listings by the end of my first year and 36 to my second year in business as a 27-year-old. Like, you know, like I didn't even own a house. I could, you know, I was just barely affording my rent. Like, and I sold 36 houses because calling works. Like calling is number one. But I love it. Like if you just added them to your nurture farm, you know, that sequence we talked about, if you're just now catching this, go back and watch the replay, but you're at the end of your nurture sequence, they said, yeah, follow up, send them a text. Maybe it's a video text and just say, hey, it was so good, you know, chatting with you today. I look forward to working with you in the future. I love integrating text messages. At this point, this is what I teach. Say someone's like, yeah, we're not going to sell for a year. Text them next month. Call the next month, text, call. And then that way they remember you. If you're doing a client appreciation party, invite them to your party, even if they haven't used you. If you give away pies at Thanksgiving, call them, text them, say, hey, would you like a pie? You know, you're part of my VIP treatment. Like, and then when you call a year later, hey, Johnny, you know, this is AJ. They're gonna be like, oh, hey, what's up, AJ? Because I invited them to a party. I sent them a direct mailer. They got all my texts. They came and picked up a pie, whatever. Who else are they going to use? Like, they're not going to call the neighbor down the street or go to Google. They're going to use you. So just like put everything I'm saying, like pause, go back, and just write out what are your touch points. Exactly. If you're thinking you have a lot of touch points and you only have 12, you probably got to get to 36. So that means like calls, texts, emails, and then just like actually have a calendar, write it all in, plan it out, build a campaign inside of Vortex, put it on your wall so you don't forget. Because if you don't plan this out, you're never going to do it. But just keep it simple. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. If you're just starting out, call and text.
I'm already overwhelmed with the notes I'm taking. So much information. This is so awesome. Things that you don't think about. You think you're successful, but every single day you're learning. And when you are at that level, well, oh, I know it all, then you don't know it all, right? I mean, think about that, right? So AJ, this is amazing because I love to take notes. I'm always like, okay, what do I learn? What am I not implementing? And I have yet to even touch what some of the things you said here, which is so awesome. You've shared some amazing information. And guys, for RedX, obviously the special offer for LCA members, sign up now to waive your setup fee. It's right up there. And if you did leave earlier, you do have to go. Or if you missed the earlier part of what AJ was just saying, some great golden nuggets he gave us for prospecting, for different scripts that he shared with us. Definitely look at our YouTube channel, LabCoatAgents. We will post this up there in, I think, 24 hours, I believe. So it'll be ready for you and you can learn and actually implement everything that AJ says. One thing I noticed is that, when you're here at these webinars, you learn so much from our guest speakers and you don't implement it, you're wasting your time, right? Bottom line is try to implement at least one or two things and see what happens to your business while it grows. Yeah. So anything else before we say bye to you, AJ, anything else? And we would love to have you again, by the way, maybe in a couple months, Robert.
Thank you. I'd love to come back. I appreciate you guys having me on. I would just say, just like you just said, like, just implement one or two things from this webinar, and try not to, it's great to watch these, just don't watch these in replacement of your actual work. Like,
Right.
if you could watch one of these a day, great. But if you're doing it at 1 o'clock when you should be prospecting, like, that's not good. Like, this maybe should be replacing your Netflix at night, or maybe you're out walking the dog and you're listening to this. So don't mistake this type of stuff as work. Like, this should be extra to your work. I see that some agents learn without action, and they're always just like, they're spending 20 hours a week learning, but they're never doing anything. And then they fail out of the real estate business because they never took action on it. So that'd be a tip there, because I'm always learning too, just like you. I'm taking all the notes. I'm watching the videos all the time. Like, I love it, and I don't necessarily love it because I just love it. I love it because I know what it will do for me in the future,
Right.
and how I'll be able to help the people that depend on me to help them. So
exactly. And when to implement what in your business,
Yeah.
what are you lacking, and just implement that one thing and go with it. Another thing you just said, time blocking. What does your ideal calendar look like, right? What is your time blocking periods? When are you lead generating? Are you doing any lead generation in the evening hours, or is it only morning hours, mid-afternoon? How does that look and feel? I think it's very important. So obviously track your leads, track your numbers, business planning. What does your business plan look like? I mean, these are great nuggets, AJ. Thank you so much. And obviously, like I said, let's revisit this and let's have a conversation again to kind of like dig a little deeper to find out more about, not only what your day looks like, but what does your lead generation power dialer look like, with all these different buckets and your bag that you've archived. Maybe we can dive into that next time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'll just leave it with this about working with buyers right now. Make sure you have proper expectations set in the beginning. Like, if you know properties are going 20,000 over ask in your market, make sure your buyer knows that. And if they're not prepared to offer over asking, and it's a must, let them know. Maybe they should be in a lower price point. Maybe the reality for them is they're going to need a little bit of a fixer upper, and be okay with whatever that initial conversation results in. There's a saying that I always say is, it's marry the process, divorce the result. So if you're not being very honest with your buyer of what today's market conditions look like, and you're driving around nonstop, you're putting in 10 offers, nothing's getting accepted, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, I'm not making any money. Like, I have no time to prospects. I'm too busy with buyers. It's not the market's conditions fault. It's not the buyer's fault. It's your fault because you're not setting proper expectations.
Absolutely.
You're holding on to something that may not ever come. So just set expectations, make sure that they're realistic, that you're going to be a good fit together. And if they're not a good fit, if they're not realistic, be okay letting that buyer go work with another agent. If it needs to come to that, maybe they sit out of the market for 6 months, and maybe it cools down, maybe it doesn't, who knows. But my point of bringing that up is, and it's the same thing with listing appointments. Like, don't go on a listing appointment that is like, we want 500,000 and we're not selling unless we get 500,000. You're like, it's only worth 200. Like, maybe you should cancel that appointment, use a pre-qual script. So there's more to it. But the point I'm making is, there's an opportunity cost to everything you do. And if you don't have time to prospect, then it's because you're probably doing something in your business that you could cut out. So there's an opportunity cost to everything that you do. And right now in this market, you just got to be really, really clear with your expectations with buyers, and they'll appreciate it too, because they don't want to look at 50 houses, write 10 offers, and not get one. So just be honest and upfront with that too. So they'll free up some time for you and some energy.
And that is obviously another last strategy that AJ just offered us, working with buyers and during this low inventory market. I think it's very important to share market knowledge with your buyer when you're doing your buyer consultation. And it's very important to share that knowledge, to give them the guidance, and to set the right expectation. Thank you so much, AJ, for your time. I appreciate that. Robert, as always, thank you so much. Again, RedX is offering a special offer, waiving the setup fee. And you guys can also watch this on our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe on our YouTube channel, LabCoatAgents. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
AJ.
Bye, Robert.